Welcome back, everyone. Yes, it is Sunday, and have I got some strange woo for all of you. Hope you're well. I hope you are enjoying your Sunday out there, and I hope you're looking forward to a lot of streaming starting from right now here on KBS 2 and KBS, the main channel, as well, because right after this, it's Sunday, and that means it's time for Warrior Mode. Yes, indeed. I'm going to be talking to Bill Bean, fresh from his appearance on the latest episode of Ghost Nation. And you can see that on the Travel Channel, and I was lucky enough to catch that here on YouTube today. And oh my word, I can't wait to get into all of that with Bill tonight. Very, very strange location he went to, indeed. And Bill is also going to be talking at length about the Fall Guy. Yes, indeed. So join me from midnight in the UK, and at 7 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 p.m. on the West Coast. And that is on KBS, the main channel. And yes, 2 hours from now, we'll be getting into all of that with Bill Bean. But before we go anywhere today, I want to thank you all, obviously, giving up some time on your Sunday to come and hang out with me, the most hateable YouTuber on the planet. Okay, I'm not that bad, but I tell you, we sure do attract some thumbs down. The minute, not even the minute, no, the second I set up a stream, it's quite creepy. I would like to think it must be a bot, because it's uncanny how quickly we get not one but two thumbs down instantly. And I know all of you good people who have hung around to watch this. You can totally wipe that out right now by hitting the like button, hit share, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Doesn't cost a penny, and you will get pretty much daily content right here on KBS and KBS 2. So in the chat room, before we get going today, on what has to be one of the most mysterious and craziest magical orders I have ever come across. You are going to have your mind blown. Wait until you hear what I've got for you. But before I do that, let me head on over to the chat room, see what fine people we have attracted this Sunday, shall we? So we have got Basic Materials in there. Good to see you. Sounds like it really does sound like a new name to me. And if you are a new name, welcome to the channel. We always like new people here. I think you've probably bumped into the friendliest chat room on YouTube. We've got Algorithm. We've got First Paranormal, Jason, who stole the show on Freaky Friday. Big shout out to you, brother. Rhesus, like I was talking about. We've got Queen Goddess in there. Good to see you. Algorithm. Becky. Good to see you, Becky. Thank you so much to you and everyone else who continues to support the channel. You really are keeping it going right now. See how we are living. Yes, and looking forward to Billy Shears with Billy Bean. Oh, as am I. As am I. We've got King Sweet in there. Who else is kicking around? Let's see. I'm scrolling up quicker now. It's always the usual suspects in here, right? We've got Lewis. Good to see you. The Wookiee, I think I've done that one. John Nelson, Jose Ramon, Francis. We've got Leslie in there. Who else? Jules. Scrolling on up. ZX. How could I ever forget my good friend ZX? Let's see. Brian. Good to see you, Brian. Little Glob. Awesome. And Little Glob says, "Hi Kev, can we have more from the Aussie posse, please? That was awesome. And my jaw hit the floor and stayed there. You and me both. And I promise that we will absolutely get Donnie, we'll get Anne-Marie, and we'll get Mammoth Hunter back on as well. You know, Mammoth had really put together a lot of work, speaking behind the scenes with Donnie and with Anne-Marie ahead of yesterday's show. And I had no idea about that whole matriarchal system thing. That was a real kind of shocker, but in a good way. And I really enjoyed the way that the show flowed. But I got so excited because that's the kind of information I would genuinely be interested in if somebody else was putting it on YouTube. So I apologise to Mammoth Hunter because I think she probably had about another 2 hours worth of information. But because I got all excited and we got into the woo, I kind of took us away to the land where Kev belongs, Speculation Island. But no, a big shout out to everyone that was there yesterday, and especially Donny and his son Edward for setting up the technology for him, and Anne Marie as well. And I'll say it again, like I said yesterday, it might seem weird, but we need to get back to the way things were, like hundreds, thousands of years ago, to have any hope of going forward positively for hundreds or thousands of years to come. And I think we could do a lot worse than to listen to some of the knowledge that is still retained to this day in people like Donny and Anne Marie and the rest of their mobs down in Australia. So I learned a lot yesterday. I hope you did. It's right here on the channel. I urge you all to check it out. Share it far and wide. It probably won't get half the traffic it deserves, but that's okay because as long as people take the information, that is the main thing. So then, what have I found for us to talk about today? Dang. I almost fell off the chair when I was reading about, well, the first paragraph of what we're going to get into here. But what if I was to tell you that we're going to talk about a really kind of, I wouldn't say secretive, but not so talked about magical order of astral traveling witch hunters. Yeah, I'm not making it up, folks. I'm not making it up. Only KBS could find you this for Sunday, right? We're dealing with a group called the Benandanti. Now, has anyone ever heard of the Benandanti before? Ah, the Benandanti. Ah, yes, I get the Leo Zagami kind of feeling about it. That's awfully Italian. Right? No, nobody feeling that? Nobody heard of the Benandanti before? Don't be worried if you haven't. It's no mark against your name. I had never heard of this mob. But when it comes to a magical order of astral projecting witch hunters from the 1500s, A, I want to know why I haven't heard about them, and B, I can't think of a better topic to kick back, chill out to for the KBS Sunday stream. So, are you ready? We're going to dive right into it here, folks. And it gets really woo, really, really early. So, here's the channel here, and you can see on there is the show, the Australian show with our good friends there. 718 views. I'll even give it a thumbs up. That's actually really good for the backup channel here, and I'm really pleased to see that people are enjoying that information. But let's get to what we're going to be talking about today. And if I just come back up here, it says the mysterious order of astral projecting witch hunters. Now, as you can see, comes from one of my favorite websites to go and peruse all of their information that they update daily. This comes from May the 10th, and it's written by Brent Swanser. But I want you to be honest, folks. How many of you out there have heard of the Ben and Dante? Have you heard of them? Is it something you've heard of before? You can leave a 1 if you've heard of the mysterious order of astral projecting witch hunters, or 2, it's totally new to you. So then, let's get into this. It says the years between 1575 and 1650 were a dark time for Europe, and certainly a bad time to be a witch. This was the peak of the early modern witch trials, during which suspected witches were mercilessly persecuted, and tens of thousands of people lost their lives as practitioners of witchcraft and black magic at a time of inquisitors, witch hunts, torture, and people often condemned to death with little or no trial at all. Can you imagine that? Do you ever find yourself doing that? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm a weirdo. Should I share this? But when I talk about these stories, or usually when I'm listening, maybe I'm coast to coast, or if Clyde Lewis is taking us back in time and things. I don't know, but in my mind's eye, I'm kind of thrust back there. And when you think about times like this, the 1500s, when literally people were, getting persecuted and hunted down, maybe for something as innocuous as maybe using herbs out the forest, in some medicinal kind of form. That in itself was enough to see you on the end of one of these witch hunts, right? And then you compare it to the times that we're in today, and it's really, it's mind blowing, folks. It might as well be a different universe that you're thinking about. But it says here, between 1580 and 1630 alone, it is estimated that over 50,000 people lost their lives on charges of witchcraft. And one area where these trials were in full effect was in the country of Italy. It is here in the remote Friuli district of northeastern Italy that inquisitors would uncover a new type of witch they had never seen before. A secretive order which had a tradition thought to go back centuries, and which was permeated with all manner of strange powers, abilities, and rites. So, can I pump up the volume? Yep, no probs, folks, no probs at all. Let me see. Let's see how that looks. One, two. There you go. Now people will be saying, turn that Scottish idiot down. His voice. No, but keep me right, folks. That's what you're here for, and that's what I'm here for. It's for your pleasure. So if you find yourself it's not easy to hear, just let me know. And John, he tagged me in the actual chat room there. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to start this story again, just in case people couldn't hear it. And all volume is maxed. Right, I've tried turning it up. Let's see if that's better now. And I know it's got to wait for the stream to catch up. So hopefully 5 by 5. There we go. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Polly. Don't thank me. I thank you for letting me know. I mean, I could sit here for an hour and talk to you all, and perhaps I've done something wrong. Maybe I've pressed mute, and it would only be because I see in the chat room that I would get any idea. So thank you. Okay. So we'll start again, right? It says the years between 1575 and 1650 were a dark time for Europe, and certainly a bad time to be a witch. Now, this was the peak of the early modern witch trials, during which suspected witches were mercilessly persecuted, and tens of thousands of people were executed as practitioners of witchcraft and black magic. A time of inquisitors, witch hunts, torture, and people often condemned to death with little or no trial at all. Now, between 1580 and 1630 alone, it is estimated that over 50,000 people lost their lives on charges of witchcraft. And in one area where these witch trials were in full effect was the country of Italy. I'm not going to do a Leo Zagami impersonation. I'm rubbish at it. It says it is here in the remote Friuli district of northeastern Italy that inquisitors would uncover a new type of witch that they had never seen before. A secretive order, which had a tradition thought to go back centuries and was permeated with all manner of strange powers, abilities, and rites. In the beginning in 1575, church authorities started investigating rumours of a shadowy cult that resided in the rural areas of the Friuli region, said by locals to have strange powers and beliefs that had not been seen before. Here, it was said that there was a cabal of reclusive magic users who were called the Benandanti. Yes, which means the good walkers, and who were supposedly tasked with doing battle with evil witches to protect the populace from their evil magic. Now, I want to ask you all out there, who has heard of this Benandetti or Benandanti before? The Benandanti, yes, indeed. The, do they sit beside the Illuminati and the Benandanti? But no, this is a new one to me. Astral projecting witch hunters back in the 1500s.
Keep your mind.
No, not that
open.
one, not that one,
Keep
that
looking.
one. I'll get it right eventually, folks. I'll get it right eventually. But yes, they are new to me. And if you have heard of them before, then this probably might be a bit repetitive for you. But I tell you what, it's the first time I've landed on a timeline where the Benandanti have been operating. I can say that with good confidence, right? And who were supposedly, right, we got that bit. Now, according to the traditions, these Benandanti could be male or female, very woke, very diverse for the 1500s. I like to see that. Yeah, it's good to see we're picking up some things from the 1500s then. We're marked from birth by the presence of an amniotic sac on their head called a cowl, which in many traditions was seen as a sign of supernatural powers. And for the Benandanti, so important were the cowls, were sometimes made into powerful charms and amulets. Now, people born with an amniotic sac on their head, I would say that probably would be a sign that they're different. Magical powers? Let's read on. These chosen ones would then, upon reaching adulthood, be recruited into the order and gain the ability to travel out of their bodies at night, riding on the backs of various animals and even shape-shifting into various forms in order to hunt down malicious witches, which they called the Malandanti. So you've got the Benandanti, the good guys, against the Malandanti. This is sounding pretty cool, this. Mostly for the purposes of protecting their harvests from the withering black magic they used to blight them. Now, I want you to keep in mind that something as innocuous as picking berries in the forest may have actually been enough to get you onto one of these lists as a witch. Making potions, even though, it's nothing bad, there's nothing evil going on there. You're not casting any hocus pocus spells or turning any princes into frogs anytime soon. But just that lack of knowledge, I suppose, and the times, the times as well. Anything new, anything different. Oh, can't be having that. Must be bad. Must be evil. And can you imagine living in a time when there is groups like the Benandanti and the Malandanti, and they're all having these kind of crazy spiritual battles where they're shape-shifting into different animals, and what on earth have we stumbled upon this Sunday? I told you this was going to be good woo to get us warmed up for Bill Bean coming, right? So these nighttime astral travels, and bear in mind, DJ Caveman, love it when DJ phones up the show. I love it when you all phone up the show. But I get the sneaky suspicion that DJ's got a lot more to tell us. He's already shared about his astral traveling, things like that. I've mentioned that my mum, she used to be able to do it. I suppose she still can. But when I was young, growing up, she would talk about going as far as the garden gate. But then she'd get scared, right? Because what if you can't get back? And as somebody who can't even imagine what it's like to astrally project, I can't imagine what it'd be like because you don't know what you're doing. It's totally the unknown in the first place. Can you get back? What if I can't get back? So, but in these days, you had magical orders of people that were doing it to fight spiritual warfare against. Now, if I'm gonna hazard a guess that if you've got like astral projecting witches going about in the astral plane, hocus pocus, and doing their thing. Now maybe there is a need for some kind of witch patrol. Or should we call them the Benandanti? Yes, indeed. So it says here, were carried out or they carried out the nighttime travels. Astral travels were carried out on what were called the Ember Days, which denote the changing of the seasons marked by the solstices and the equinoxes, and almost always on Thursdays. Now, they would ride out on these spiritual excursions upon cocks and goats. And, oh, I had to laugh at that. It's in the story, and I'm a child. Obviously, I was going to laugh. And upon finding a coven of malevolent witches, they would engage in fierce battle, with the Benandanti supposedly using as weapons tight bundles of fennel, which were known for their healing and purification properties. So is that like the smudge stick today? Are we talking like astral projecting, smudge stick wielding kind of witch hunters? Dang, this only gets worse, right? Only gets even crazier. So while the Malandati fought them with sorghum stalks, later to be associated with broomsticks. So if the Benandanti were successful in their fight, there would be good crops for the rest of the year, and they would return victorious while asking the people for clean water and wine, and then would often partake of great victory feasts. Do we think maybe there was a little bit of shenanigans going on here? So you've got a bunch of characters, right? Let's say me, Scott. You could have Jason, who we had on Freaky Friday. We could bring in Spooky Andy. There's bunches, right? Popeye. And it's coming up for crop time, and we think, I fancy having a bit of a party. How can we get a party? And somebody there, probably Popeye or Joe, would go, well, I know how we can get the party dedicated to us. We just have to say we're like shape-shifting, astral projecting witch hunters, and we'll like sit here and we'll for a couple hours, and then we'll tell them, oh, that was close. That was real close. But if it wasn't for all that wine and all of this merriment that you're about to bring our way, I don't know if we can hold back these demonic hordes no more. Right? You see me? Was there shenanigans going on? I don't know. So it says here, I know they were fighting goats and something else anyway. I know that much, right? So then, it says, if they failed, it meant famine, pestilence, and woe. It was very important that they returned to their bodies by a certain hour, usually said to be before the first rooster's crow. And it was said that if they did not then they faced the possibility of not being able to enter their physical form again, doomed to wander the earth as an incorporeal spirit until the husk of their physical body passes away. Now, it is important to note that this out-of-body travel was not seen as just mere superstition or allegory, but was actually believed to be the literal feat that they actually performed. And again, I've never heard of this lot before, and I'm surprised I've not heard people like Christopher Everard, Leo Zagami, even talking about this. So besides this ability to astral project from their bodies, the Benandanti were also known in the region as powerful healers, often sought out for their talismans or amulets for the purpose of healing the sick and handicapped or driving out spiritual possessions. It was said that when a witch chose to curse somebody with sickness or try to possess their bodies, the Benandanti were the first people they turned to, and most, it seemed, as if they were anti-witch and a benevolent force for good. The Benandanti considered themselves to be warriors of good, the enemy of evil witches and indeed the devil himself, and they saw themselves as the bringers of prosperity and plenitude to the people, defenders of harvests and the fertility of the fields. However, with such amazing magical claims, they definitely came up on the church's radar, and at first it was not known exactly how to proceed or how these Benandanti should be dealt with. And back in that time, some of the things that the Benandanti here are being credited for powerful healers. You know, going around with amulets. You know, almost idol worship and healing. You know, magical healing powers. These are exactly the same things that got people put on witch lists to be hunted in the first place. So that must have caused a bit of a problem, because here you have these people claiming to do good, fighting evil on the astral plane, yet they're doing all of the same things that make those people that are practicing them ooga booga evil witches. Very interesting indeed. And I can feel a set of eyeballs staring into my head. It's not the Benandanti. It's not even the Malinetti. Was it the Malinetti? Viennetta. Anne, what would one like? Was one trying to get one's attention? I would love a coffee. Thank you. Thought I was about to be on the end of a witch hunt there. But let's get back into it, right? Because it says here, it was simply something they'd seen before. It was simply something they'd seen before. And at the time, the church decided not to actively pursue the matter, as there did not seem to be any devil worshipping or witches' Sabbath involved, and no defilement of sacraments. So it was chalked up to mere local folklore and pagan superstitions. But this would change. Oh, it would change, folks. Yeah, indeedy. In 1580, an inquisitor by the name of Fra Felice da Montefalco dusted off the Benandanti case and decided to look into it further. To this end, Becky's, was that you just saved your own ass from the shoe? Absolutely, Becky. Hey, I know when to pick my battles. I ain't like no astral traveling kind of dude. I have to deal with stuff in the real world, the physical world. These shoes are very physical. But there's nothing otherworldly about the shoe. So yeah, oh, you better believe it, Becky. I know exactly when to behave and when not to. But let's get back into it. So it says here, where did I get to? Ah, yes. So to this end, he travelled to the region and began a series of interrogations of suspected or admitted Benandanti. Now, he would learn of other abilities that some of them claimed to have, such as speaking with the dead, seeing ghosts, or even communicating with angels. And this led Montefacto to begin to believe that they were indeed heretical and possibly satanic after all. You know, pretty much went the same way for the Knights Templar, right? It's not. I know they weren't the 1500s, but you know they were seen as a force of great good. But you know, the minute you start getting a bit of traction, the minute you maybe start taking some of that attention away from the church and onto you, and you start to get a bit of power, oh, you better believe you're going to be discommunicated and put on the same fires that the witches you were hunting were put on. Absolutely. Yep, very precarious times back then, folks, from one day to the next. So it says, he began to do whatever he could to twist testimonies to fit this new conclusion, claiming that these angels and ghosts were actually the devil in disguise, and even began painting their activities to look very much like witches' Sabbaths. Now, he even, under intense questioning, managed to get several Benandanti to admit it was possible that they have been led astray by the devil. Oh, I wonder what kind of torture they had to get put through before they would admit to that. And bear in mind what we know about torture today, folks. People will admit to anything you want them to just to get it to stop, right? Is it a sign of guilt? I don't know. But it says here, that he began to, we've done that, but angels and ghosts were actually the devil in disguise, and he began painting their activities to look like the witches' Sabbaths. And he, even under intense questioning, got several Benandanti to admit it was possible They were led astray by the devil, which only strengthened his resolve that their cult was no better than the witches they claimed to fight. In his mind, all of this talk of nightly spiritual travel, of the soul leaving the body, the shape shifting, conversations with the dead, and other mystical abilities were far more sinister than mere folk traditions. Now, especially since most Benandanti were adamant that they could really do these things. Now, due to his interrogation, several Benandanti were labelled heretics and imprisoned. And despite them insisting that they were doing the work for God, and that this was the beginning of the end of the good walkers. So it's not much to go here, folks. I'll just finish this off. But it says, largely fueled by Montifacto's testimony, the Catholic Church and its inquisitors began to increasingly link the Benandanti to witches, to the point that they became nearly synonymous. Indeed, by the 1600s, inquisitors were getting better at forcing the Benandanti to admit to more ominous practices, such as devil worship and desecration of religious symbols, and general anti-Christian debauchery, although most of the time the accused staunchly denied this and complained of being tricked into these admissions. Now, luckily for them, the church never did fully bring down their wrath upon the Benandanti, and while they were certainly persecuted and punished, the general skepticism in witchcraft that was spreading at the time added to their rarity, and the fact that the inquisitors were still not quite sure what to make of them meant that they were, in the end, most able to avoid the full brunt of the Inquisition, and were forgotten to fade back into obscurity. Now, by the end of the 17th century, the Benandanti seemed to have disappeared altogether. Or did they go underground? It would not be until 1960 when the Italian historian Carlo Ginzburg delved into this historical oddity when she went through the old trial records and compiled a book on the Benandanti called The Night Battles, Witchcraft and Agrarian Cults in the 16th and 17th centuries, in which he postulates that they were the descendants of an ancient pre-Christian fertility cult. Now, in the end, the Benandanti have sort of faded back into history to be forgotten in the mists of time. The mists of time, they just constantly swirl around the KBS studio, and we pluck out these little gems from time to time. Maybe gone, but nothing forgotten. Not on this journey down the rabbit hole. Oh no. So who were these mysterious people who allegedly went out in the night to do spectral battle with forces of evil? And could they ever actually do any of the things that they claimed? What was their real relation to witchcraft, and where did they originate from? It is an intriguing little piece of history to think that this secretive cult would have remained hidden, going about their witch-fighting work and go to battle against the forces of evil, only to attract the ire of the church and disappear into nothingness. Whoever they were, the Benandanti have become a curious historical oddity that we will perhaps never truly understand. Now, there's various ways you can look at this, folks, and I find it really, really interesting, right? Because you've got this group, the Benandanti, or the Benandanti, whatever way, I think they spelled it both ways in there. But back in the 1500s, who apparently just kind of came out of nowhere. People just kind of started talking about them, very secretive, and they would astrally project, this is what their claim would be, and take on spiritual battle against astrally projecting witches who had that ability. They could take on many forms, shape shift, literally. Now, does that mean that they could almost have some kind of conscious transference? And I don't mean like some machine, but when they're astrally traveling, can you jump into an animal? Can you take that animal's form? Can you go into somebody else, see from their point of view through their eyes? I don't know how it happens. Now, I find it interesting that they got rounded up and they were accused of heresy and all the kind of things that witches were. Only it never went as far as the punishment that the witches ever faced, right? So, in my mind, the way I think about things, there's a couple of ways of looking at that. Either the knowledge they had was something that the church and the folk running the church at the time were absolutely desperate to get their hands on, so they kept them alive to learn from them. Perhaps you could look at it a far more conspiratorial way, and we often talk about how the Vatican is probably more for the dark side than the light side, right? So if you have got a group of like almost kind of astral sorcerers out there doing battle against darkness, could that in some way prompt the physical church to cry witches, round you all up and get rid of you, right? Because literally they were battling who the church truly works for. I don't know, but I think there's more to this. I truly do think there's more to this than meets the eye. Because when you go on a little tour around the old Tinterwebs, it doesn't just stop. Doesn't just stop with the whole that one article. So I'll take you over here. And Benandanti. There you go. And we'll go with the Benandanti instead of Benandanti. And it says the Benandanti, the good walkers, were members of an agrarian visionary tradition, as we know. And they're in here. It says 1575. The Bernandanti first came to the attention of the Friulian church authorities when a village priest, Don Bartolomeo Gabariza, began investigating the claims made by the Benandante Paolo Gasparato. Although Gabariza soon abandoned the investigation, in 1580 the case was reopened by the Inquisitor Fra Felice Montefalco, just like we've seen there. And it goes on, you can find the members of it. It says the Benandanti, meaning good walkers, and included both males and females. Okay, we had that. The Benandanti reported leaving their bodies in the shape of mice, cats, rabbits, or butterflies. Now, the men mostly reported flying into the clouds, battling against witches to secure fertility for their community. And women more often reported attending great feasts. It says quite popular across Europe, popular culture viewed magical abilities as either innate or learned. And in Friulian folk custom, the Benandanti were seen as having innate powers marked out at birth. I tell you, this is a pretty deep woo. It says, from surviving records, it is apparent that members of the Benandanti first learned about its traditions during infancy, usually from their mothers. And for this reason, historian Norman Cohn asserted that the Benandanti tradition highlights how not only the waking thoughts but the trance experiences of individuals can be deeply conditioned by the general accepted beliefs of the society in which they live. That's really, that's quite interesting. Even your experience in a trance, because of your upbringing, because of the knowledge you already have, the world you live in, those cultural shared norms, set of standards that we all kind of adhere to, that tends to frame and limit the experience of the trance. I find that quite interesting because it starts to call into question how much of that is all in the mind's eye then. How much is that projection really not an external thing at all, but really internal? Not to knock it, but it could be a construct in our own minds. And it says here, visionary journeys It would say here on Thursdays between Ember Days and periods of fasting from the Catholic Church, the Benandanti claimed their spirits would leave their bodies at night in the form of small animals. The spirits of the men would go to the fields to fight the evil witches, the Malandante. And the Benandante men fought with fennel stalks. Okay, we got that. The female Benandanti performed other sacred tasks. When they left their bodies, they travelled to a great feast where they danced, ate, and drank with a procession of spirits, animals, and fairies and learned who amongst the villagers would die in the next year. In one account, this feast was presided over by a woman, the abbess, who sat in splendour on the edge of a well. Now, Carlo Ginzburg has compared these spirit assemblies with others reported by similar groups elsewhere in Italy and Sicily, which were also presided over by a goddess figure who taught magic and divination. Now, if I was to say to Bill Bean, you've got women out there that are going away, they're meditating, and they're going to this big party, and there's lots of information and knowledge that they can gain there, Bill, and there's drink, and there's this really cool woman that's offering to teach magic and somehow knows who's going to pass away in the next year. I know exactly what Bill Bean would say to me. That there is not coming from a good place. Now, your take on it, what you think about it, is entirely up to you. Very interesting. I just find this all really, really good woo. Something I've never heard of before. But it says the earliest accounts of the Benandante's journeys dating from 1575 did not contain any of the elements that are associated with the diabolical witch's Sabbath. There was no worshipping of the devil, a figure who was not even present, and no renunciation of Christianity, no trampling of crucifixes, and no defilement of sacraments. And there's another story here, and I'll drop this into the chat room for everyone to check out. But this is a real lengthy kind of account. Italy's ancient Benandanti, harvest rites and ghostly battles. And it says a nocturnal battle between good and evil witches among vast fields of crops at seasonal markers throughout the years, an especially enticing image as the autumn season approaches us. But its deep origins in pre-Christian folk practice are perhaps even more intriguing. The disturbed inquisitors' curiosity was kindled. Yeah, the disturbed. When the later witnessed claimed to have communicated with these spirits on behalf of their living relatives. And women testified to having ridden through the night in a great horde, with the goddess Diana. And others claimed the ability to transform into animals like cats and mice or ride astride them during their excursions. Now, these professed nightly deeds, some aimed at ensuring crop fertility, were far more simple harvest lore or peasant superstition, or was it? And yeah, you can go down. Like I say, I would probably get you to look into this. It's very, very long. The processions of the dead in European folklore. It says, as the inquisitors were well aware, spiritual excursions were not unique to the Benandanti. Several hundred years prior to the Benandanti trials, a similar folkloric motif describing spectral processions and accounts of mysterious journeys by women during the night of the ember seasons. Again, it's just back to the same guy. Becky's talking about skinwalkers. Well, I tell you what, Becky, that's a really good observation. I'm a bit pissed I didn't pick that one up myself. Good walkers, yeah, or skinwalkers. The skinwalkers said to be able to shapeshift, take on many forms. Check. I'm sure depending on whether you come from the Ute tribe or the Navajo tribe would depend on whether you see the skinwalker as being a force of good or a force of evil, right? The same as the Benandanti, depending on which way you look at it, who's telling the story, they can be good or bad, right? They certainly seem to have been saying they were doing good things, but wouldn't any shady, mysterious, magical cult of astral traveling witch hunters do so? Just to maintain that guys as the good guys out there? I don't know. But I told you I could find you some really good woo on a Sunday, right? I told you I could. But good shout. Definite goonwalkers, says Ben Mac. Here we go. We've got First Paranormal. Myself and Kev have all the same sites. Now, Jason, I have to really steal that one off you. I'm a self-confessed addict of everything that's on the Mysterious Universe, and I have been pillaging, pillaging and tearing the information off that site for years, and I can't recommend it highly enough to anyone that's into our kind of woo. That's the mysteriousuniverse.org. I'm still waiting, Nick. I'm still waiting, Nick, for you to get back in touch with me. Hopefully, you can get Nick Redfern on. But that article is by Ben Swanser. And, yeah, pretty weird, right? Just seeing if there's anything else that's quite relevant on this here. I'll bring it up on the screen again, 2 secs. Is ancestor veneration at the root of fertility cults and ghostly possessions? So it says, before the imagination conjures images shaped by the likes of monumental classic film Night of the Dead, let us attempt to look at the tradition of spectral procession through the eyes of those who lived it. 19th century antiquarian and folklorist Sabine Baringold wrote that the legends of the Wild Hunt were derived from the natural world. The night migration of honking bean geese in winter across northern Europe. Yet even a cursory examination of these myths reveals a meaning beyond a trivial case of mistaken natural phenomena. It's a bit of an X-File. So it says some conceptions of the nightly parades were quite obviously a source of dread among the local populace. The Welsh myth of Gabriel's hounds, or 2 words that I'm not even going to embarrass myself by attempting to say, Quinn Anwin, probably, for instance, holds that a sighting of the spectral dogs. Hellhounds, spectral dogs. Whoa, what about yesterday? We were talking about the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine. Oh, tell you folks, check out the Down Under Australia show. Oh, that is mind-blowing. But it goes on to say here, among many of these cultures, however, a procession of the dead was not meant solely to strike fear into the hearts of its people, but instead to act as a reminder or a stern warning to remembers now actually joking aside, to remember one's ancestors and roots, much like the Celtic festival of Samhain before its eventual transformation into our modern candy-laden and mischief-filled Halloween night. Now, when we were talking yesterday with our friends down under, I think it was quite hard to come away from that without an appreciation that we've lost touch completely, in some cases, with our ancestors. And it was really special, the way that we done the show. You know, we kind of kept it to the way that the Australian Aboriginal culture works with the matriarchal system. And, you know, go and listen to that and think of how, like, pleasant and friendly and nice that was, you know. Before you start anything, you know, welcoming everyone and thanking their ancestors from the land that they walked on. That's something that we wouldn't ever really tend to think about doing in a conversation if we were having it over here. I think we need to really get back to that. Or even at least just an appreciation or some respect of those that have gone before, you know. And it says that it's not surprising that Dr. Lecato, is that the same as a gatto? Because I love gatto. But I'm just saying, who draws a strong connection between the agricultural fertility and processions of the dead ancestors. places the wild hunt within Northern European ancestor worship and fertility traditions. Nor is it difficult to miss the small but unmistakable thread of ancestor veneration that runs through the frayed fabric of the agrarian Benandanti lore. Now, I'm going to drop that again and over at the chat room. Like I say, listen, I don't know, folks. You could probably sit there and say that Kev Baker, he has lost his mind. Talking about a bunch of wacky dudes that were like astral traveling and meditating and getting drunk and running about and shape shifting, back in the 1500s and things like that. Kev Baker's lost his mind. But that's okay, because I'm not telling you anything. I'm just providing and you decide. You take the information and you do with it what you want. When it comes to interesting woo, I definitely think it ticks all the boxes when you've got a group of a magical order, a mysterious magical order of astrally projecting witch hunters. If that isn't the Kev Baker show, I really don't know. Now I'm going to go and take a drink of coffee. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. You keep yourself all amused in that chat room. Donnie from down under. Brother, how you doing, man? From my mob to your mob, Donnie. I'm still buzzing about that show we done. Honestly, dude. And I'll be back in a moment, folks. And don't forget, an hour from now, I'll be going into warrior mode and co-hosting with my good friend Bill Bain as we talk about Paul McCartney. Wow, 120 odd plus people in here on the backup channel. That's phenomenal. And that's what happens when you get good information like we had yesterday. And we try to bring you daily content. And if you like what you see, remember to hit subscribe. And I'll be back. I'm going to come back in a moment. I've got something else to show you. I'm not going away yet. I will be back in an hour over on KBS 1 for Warrior Mode with Bill Bain. I'll get you the link to that before we go away today. Don't panic. I've got your back. And I will be back with ancient mysterious cubes. Huh? What? Big shout out to Just Be Happy in the chat room. It was his daughter's birthday this weekend. 2 graduations going on as well. He lives in a house full of women. Big shout out to Just a Guy. Love you long time, brother. And yes, I will be back an hour from now with that show right there. Yes, indeed. Now that is over on the main KBS channel, and I will drop the link in the chat room right now. As you can see, Bill's going to be talking about current events. He'll be praying about everything or against everything bad in the world right now. And then we'll be diving into Fall McCartney. Yes, indeed. So that's an hour from now over on the main channel. And I've got a real quick one. Another mystery for this Sunday stream. I'm liking the Sunday Strange or the Strange Sunday stream, whatever way you want to put it. Both works. It's all good, right?
How dare you?
I swear, Greta, I thought the conspiracy music had got rid of Greta, but I was wrong.
How dare you?
Or could it be that she herself is an X-File? That's for another show altogether. But I've got you covered for Woo right now, up until when Bill comes on, because we talk about the ancient world all the time, right? All of the mysteries, all of the good stuff. And from time to time, you get these things that make you go, what? What on earth are we looking at? And I've got one such case for you here. Now, this was a find in a river down in England, in Coventry, really close to where I spent a number of fabulous years when I was at 30 Signal Regiment in Nuneaton. Loved it down that part of the world. But I had no idea that lying in a river somewhere was this. Look at that. Now then, we're going to scroll down. We're going to take a little look at these. They could be like some kind of ancient inscribed OXO cubes. They could be like really, really crappy Rubik's cubes. And I mean crappy because they obviously don't turn or anything. Maybe they were a doorstop. I don't know, but let's go down. Let's look further. Pretty cool, right? And they've got these crazy inscriptions on them. Maybe one of them probably says, in a future time, man from Scotland, he bring good woo. You see, they're obviously fortune little cubes, these things. But yeah, now we can see them there. A grid system is thought to contain a sacred inscription. And that's the kind of schnizzle that we look for here on the Kev Baker Show, right? Some of the cubes found in a Coventry river. What are you doing? What are you laughing at? Anne's sitting laughing. And when she gets this close, it means one of two things. Either, like, this is really rare, but she's actually interested in what I'm saying. Or more likely, I've said something, done something, and there's a shoe coming my way. So I'm getting a little bit nervous here. But if we come back and we look at this story, it says here, mystery is 60. Now, if that had been 66 after the show I done the other night, that would have been absolutely freaky. But we're not going to stretch it. It's 60. It's pretty weird as it is. Peculiar cubes with inscriptions pulled from a Coventry river. Now, when I read this earlier on today, I read mystery is 60 peculiar pubes were pulled out of a river. And I thought to myself, what? What did they pull out of a river? And again, Anne, she's choking on something right now. Hopefully not the aforementioned. That'd be another story altogether, right? So, a magnet fisherman, out with his 2 young sons at a river in Coventry, reeled in almost 60 mysterious cubes thought to show a sacred numerical inscription. Now, this just got a whole lot better, right? Because not only did they find these things, but they randomly plucked them out while fishing with magnets. Are we to really believe this? Are we? Oh, look. You start talking about ancient woo, and look who turns up in the chat room. Mammoth Hunter. Yes, indeed. Our resident archaeologist. And Mammoth, I've been talking constantly about how good that show was yesterday. I even apologised to you because I got so excited. I took us on tangents and segues and weird things and excursions to Speculation Island. But what a show that was. But it says here, Will Reed found the Hall of Engraved Lead Squares, believed to be connected to a mystical Hindu prayer ritual while out sifting through shallow water. Yeah, because that's what turns up in the Midlands in England. Ancient Hindu Rubik's Cubes. Of course it is. So the faces of the objects, small enough to hold between the finger and the thumb, unless you're a Nephilim, then they're really tiny. You're talking like grains of magical cubes here. Remember, people were bigger back then, I'm just saying. So, are set in neat grids with inscriptions thought to be Sanskrit. Now, at first, Will 38 from Thinham thought that the cubes were just random pieces of debris littering the bottom of the River Sow in South Coventry. And it says, but he and his son, Jackson 5, well, as in like the Jackson 5, and Benjamin, it'd been better if it said Benjamin Button, took a closer look on Friday, and they noticed the detailed inscriptions set onto the faces of the squares. And Will said, we were out magnet fishing. I didn't even know magnet fishing was a thing. Now listen, if Gary Drayton catches wind of people out fishing with magnets, he's going to be absolutely raging. And you're thinking, who the hell is, what was his name again? I just forgot his name there. Gary Drayton, that's it, isn't it? That's it, right? I know, I forgot it really quickly, right? But Gary Drayton's the dude that finds it's a Bobby Dazzler on Oak Island, right? Can you imagine if these were found on Oak Island? I know what it would say. Mysterious cubes on Oak Island in Nova Scotia? but it wasn't on Oak Island. And it was nowhere near Nova Scotia. But that's how we roll here. So it says, I was live streaming to friends on Facebook, and I bent down and started picking them up. I also thought they might be rocks, and I showed them to the camera. Here, camera. What was he expecting? The camera to go, yes, mate, that's written in Sanskrit. And I don't know. I'm just losing the plot right about now. But it says, tidying up the hall. Will posted images of the cubes on Facebook and content sharing website Reddit. That is probably the most polite description of Reddit. A content sharing website. Very, very politically correct. And try to find out more about his unusual catch. Based on the responses, he believes that the objects are connected to a Hindu prayer ritual. Okay. Now, just saying, but if that's been gleaned from the forensic experts that kick around on Facebook and Reddit, they're everywhere. I mean, I'm not knocking it. Then maybe we just need to keep an open eye, kind of open mind on this one, right? Maybe the Benandanti were in Coventry at one point, and these were their magical cubes. I don't know. So there were all sorts of stories flying around at first, and the cubes really captured people's imagination. What I learned is that they're Indian in origin, and they show incantations for prayers, which take effect when they are thrown in running water. And other than a different face on one side, all the cubes are identical, possibly because they contain a numerical formula to summon the protection of Rahu. Described by the, oh my goodness, Srivinayaka astrology website as a planet with godlike powers. Rahu's sphere of control includes thieves, magicians, snakes, poisons, jails, and isolated places, and even magical orders of shape-shifting, astral projecting witch hunters. Nah, maybe not. But it says responses to the pictures on social media suggest that the characters are in Sanskrit. And Becky in the chat room, you're right. She said water is said to draw paranormal activity. FedEx, the protection of Ragu. You just can't get better than that tomato sauce to protect you, man. One of the most likely explanations comes from a beachcombing website where one contributor describes similar finds of numerical planetary yantras made of solid lead. A numerical formula contained within the cubes is said by the finder to relate to Rahu. And worshippers who place the so-called magic square in running water receive his protection from hidden enemies, wrong diagnosis of illness, and deceit. And that's according to the contributor. And however, the puzzle is far from complete, as no one has been able to put a date on these objects or to explain why so many would end up being thrown in a quiet river in Coventry. Will has returned on 2 more occasions to the spot, the precise location of which he doesn't want to disclose. He better not disclose it. He's also found a silver coin which was lying by the cubes. And he now has almost 60 relics. The more I learn, the stranger it becomes. Ho ha ha! Welcome! Welcome to my world, my friend. Yes, no one can explain why why there would be so many of these cubes in one place. It feels incredibly unusual to have found so many. Will now plans to go back to the river with a shovel and remove even more of the cubes. He said, I will get them appraised to find out more. No, you'll get them appraised to find out how much they're bloody worth, mate. Admit it. I will get them appraised to find out more about them. And how much, there you go, how much they're worth. I could be sitting on an absolute pool of cash. I think you're sitting on a fortune. If they are Sanskrit, and we're talking about ancient, Hindu kind of, how old are these things? You'd have to think that they've got some monetary value, right? Says, sitting on a pool of cash, or it could be worth nothing. I won't make any decision on what to do with them until I find out more about what they are, exactly what they are. And, if I was going to make this really kind of go from fact into fiction and get a bit of good woo going, I would I would warn this young man, be very careful with these things in your house. If they've been used for summoning entities, and I don't know very much about Rahu or Ragu, but you never know what might be attached to them. Stone, and they say these are lead, were they used in some kind of alchemical shenanigans as well at one point, perhaps? I don't know. Coventry, England, who knows who these belong to, where they came from. But there's always, been practitioners of magic, on these isles. Think of somebody like John Dee. When was John Dee alive? Let me see when John Dee was kicking about. John Dee. He was in 1527 to 1608. Wonder if he knew about the Benandanti. But he's the kind of person I would imagine would get his hands on something like that if he thought there was any kind of hocus pocus to be gained on the back of them. Yes. Absolutely. So I am going to come back on. I'm going to go back to the main screen right now. I'm going to shove on the tunes. I'm going to get myself a little drink of coffee, wet my whistle, come back, spend 5 minutes with you brilliant people out there, and then I'm going to head on over to KBS 1. And I'm going to get ready for the arrival of Bill Bean. And remember, check out Bill Bean, Ghost Nation. He was on the latest episode, I think it's season 2, episode 7. And Bill Bean, he was going toe to toe with those demonic hordes. ZX, he's very correct there, How the heck did this guy get those lead things with a magnet? Well, I know when I watch Oak Island, when Gary Drayton finds that big, impressive Templar-like cross. Now, it's made of lead, but it gives a magnetic signal, a return on the machine. You know what I think? I think maybe the guy, the story that he's giving people, the story might be wrong. Now, why would he tell the wrong story about how he found them? Because depending on where he found them might depend on who gets a split on what they're worth. I hear you, ZX. I hear you, brother. I hear you. And that's what I'm saying to you, dude. I don't think he fished them out at all. But I think the river will be on probably public land. And anything found there would be the finders would get to keep it. But perhaps he dug it up after being out with a metal detector, which sounds far more plausible. Got a beep, 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 beep. Dug it up, maybe on somebody's ground. A lot of private estates around there. Have we dug up a conspiracy? Have we found a conspiracy within the Wu? Are we challenging this young man's claims to provenance on his items, shall we? Shall we summon some shape-shifting, witch-hunting entities to go after him? Oh, I don't know, but we'll keep an eye on that story. We'll keep an eye on that story. That's my suspicions, because I'm with you, ZX. It doesn't make much sense. It really doesn't. Just going to a river, you know. Do-do-do. Casting out and, whoa, got one. Whoa, got something. Pull it in, you get one magical cube. So that guy cast out to the exact same spot, lucky 60 times? Really? Really? Really, really? Or don't they look a little bit dirty? Don't they look like they've been underground for a number of years? It looks more patinaed than corroded to me. But I don't know. I'm just a humble YouTuber from the smart city of Glasgow. And I want to thank you all for being here today. His story is as solid as the Andromeda hoo-ha. Yes, indeed. Let's see who else is kicking about in here. We've got Leslie in there talking about PPP. Yes, indeed. I'll be doing that in a moment. And our good friend Luna is in there. So now we've got Luna, we've got Donnie, and we've got the Mammoth. It's almost as if yesterday's show, we've all come back together again in this, our little meeting place. Yes, indeed. And Luna, I don't know if you heard me earlier on, but I'm blown away by that show yesterday. That's made a big impact on me. And I know a lot of people have really enjoyed that. And I thoroughly look forward to hanging with you all again. Next month, we'll do it in June sometime. And I've already had people in the chat room here before the stream started insisting that we do it all over again. I'd already said to you yesterday, we have to do it again. If for no other reason but to let Mammoth get all of that hard work she'd put in out there. But nah, really good vibe about yesterday. Really good vibe. And from my clan over here to your mobs down under in Australia, much love and definitely a quantum connection going on there. That is for sure. So, before I forget, I will be over on KBS 1 in just over 40 minutes with Bill Bean. We'll be getting into our usual weekly prayers. We'll be talking about what's going on in the world. And Bill will be taking us into something called, or what I've called, the Fall Guy. So I want you to join us all for that if you can. Again, I want to thank all of you out there. I really want to thank all of you so much for the fact you've jumped over onto the backup channel here because of everything going on. All the memberships on hold, everything like that. But you've never complained. You've come over. It's been absolutely fantastic. It's been everything that this channel always has been, and this channel has always been about you, and that relationships, or these relationships that we're now forming. We're getting to meet more and more of you, whether it's on streams at the weekend, with Jason and Freaky Friday. We've had Andy on there, but Nancy hanging out with us, with Popeye before. We had the show yesterday. The callers, all of the callers into KBS. You all in your own right are becoming little stars, or should I say, the stars of whatever on earth it is we have got going on here. Because it ain't a show. Sometimes it's a conversation. Sometimes it's just the inner ramblings of a madman's mind. Yeah, a Scotsman's madman's mind at that. And I don't know why it works. I don't know what it's all about, but I ain't complaining. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, with Bill Bean and my mum messaging me, I think it might be time to wrap up. Oh, now hang on now. This is really, really weird, right? Because my stepdad, he's into a bit of fishing, so he is a bit of the angling. And my mum's just informed me that he's actually been talking about, you ready, ZX? You ready, ZX? Magnet fishing. We even had a bit of Andy Wookie going on there. Yes, we did indeed. So there you go. Magnet fishing, you say? I see. There's something fishy about magnet fishing. And until next time, folks, which will be 40 minutes from now, over on the main channel, KBS 1, keep it real, try and stay sane, and keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Okay. One last word. You people that are digging my long hair, yous are being sarcastic, right? You cannot honestly be digging the long-haired. I'm making mullets bad again. I'm telling you. Big shout out to everyone for coming along today. Remember, I'm going to be over on the main channel just over 30 minutes from now. Marty in lurk mode. So good to see you, Marty. Big shout out to you. Lewis, ZX, Just Be Happy. AJ, Leslie, Wookie, Mammoth, Resident Grey, Ben Mac, Jose, Dreams426, Dreams of 420, John Nelson, all of you. Absolutely brilliant people. Thank you so much. I hope to see you over on the main channel in 26 minutes from now. Talk to you all real soon.
How dare you?